G'day guys, it's Dane here from Clarke's column, and today I'm bringing you guys the final episode of the ranking report, episode number 6, and I'm going to be ranking the NRL forward packs 16 to 1. If you haven't clicked onto this series yet, I've ranked every other position later on the channel. You can go and have a look at them. They're about 15 to 20 minutes each. They're good to just stick in your ears while you do something and have a listen. You don't necessarily need to be watching me. I'm going to include a photo on the bottom left of just the teams for this one. In previous episodes, you will have seen I had certain players, but because there are so many forwards in a forward pack, obviously, it would have taken me a bit too long to gather all those images, and more importantly, it would have looked untidy down there with so many different heads. So to save that, I'm just going to have the logo of the club I'm talking about. As always, guys, I expect there will be a lot of controversy from this one. This was definitely the hardest position to rank because I wasn't just ranking one or two men against each other. I'm ranking an entire forward pack, and obviously your forward pack largely dictates the factor of games. So with all that being said, this was an ultra tough one to make, and I do expect a lot of people may disagree. If you do, tell me on Facebook, Instagram, or in the comments, and I'll try my best to get back to you. That being said, guys, let's kick on with the video, and welcome to the ranking report with Dane Clarke. Number 16, and a team that is often ranked towards the bottom of these lists, the Parramatta Eels, shouldn't really come as a surprise given their forward pack was largely dominated throughout a lot of 2018. Let's have a closer look at some of the forwards in this pack. So we've got Daniel Alvaro, David Gower, Martin Nikiora, Manu Ma'u, Kane Evans, Junior Paulo, Nathan Brown, Penny Terapo, Sean Lane, Tepai Moroa, and Tim Manor. Obviously a lot of older and experienced heads in that group. Sean Lane and Junior Paulo being their main new additions, which I believe for a pack that did struggle last year, they made the correct signings with these two. They're both young. Junior Paulo obviously offers a very large body in the middle, which is something they lacked, and Sean Lane can run some dynamic outside lines and is a try scorer. I believe he was the Manly Sea Eagles top try scorer in 2018, and he was a back rower, so that is a little bit surprising there. In saying what I've just said though, you would need to see a lot of improvement out of this forward pack to rank them anywhere off the bottom. So for that reason, I've ranked them number 16 on this list. On to number 15 now, guys, the Canterbury Bulldogs. Now, I do feel a little silly ranking them this low. I feel they should potentially rank a little bit higher. But it is hard to do given their 2018 form. Obviously, the departure of David Klemmer would have left a much bigger gap, but they were able to sign Dylan Napa, who is also a representative player. Let's take a closer look at their forward pack now. So we've got Adam Elliott, Aidan Tolman, Chris Smith, Corey Harawira-Naera, Danny Fualalo, Dylan Napa, Josh Jackson, Ogden, not going to try and pronounce that first name there, Raymond Faitala-Mariner, Reece Martin, and Jesse Sue. Now, that's a pretty good forward pack in terms of blending youth and young players. Obviously, some of the bigger names in there would be Josh Jackson, Dylan Napa, and I do believe Adam Elliott and Corey Harawira-Naera have a lot of upside to their career, as well as Reece Martin for that fact. With all that being said, though, we need to see a lot of improvement out of the Canterbury Bulldogs in 2019 before we can rank them any higher on this list. Number 14 now, the West Tigers. Now I know this is another forward pack with a lot of great players, and again a good blend of youth and also experienced heads, but it wasn't a forward pack that was often, I wouldn't say dominated, but their opposition did get over the top of them in 2018. Let's take a closer look at their pack now. Alex Twal, Ben Martellino, Chris McQueen, Elijah Taylor, Luke Garner, Josh Aloy-A, Russell Packer, Robbie Rokow, Ryan Madison, Michael Cheekham, and Matthew Eisenhuth. So, I mean, there's a lot of great names in there, but again, we just need to see a little bit more out of them before we can rank them higher. Obviously, Ryan Madison is a great recruit that they picked up from the Sydney Roosters. He's a premiership winner from last year, so I believe he'll do great things for the Tigers, and add to the culture that they're going to be building there under new coach Michael Maguire. Russell Packer and Ben Martellino, the front row pair, I would like to see a lot more out of them in 2019. I believe being that 5-captain whole system they had going last year under Ivan Cleary, they needed to step up and have a bigger year and a bigger impact on the field than they had. Russell Packer and Ben Martellino often were just around the 100 metres, just under, whereas premier props such as David Klemmer, etc. are up at about 150, 200 metres every game. So they do have a bit of improvement to do to land themselves higher on this list. For those reasons, I've put the West Tigers at number 14. On to number 13 now, the Manly Seagulls. This is a team that has a very impressive starting forward pack. However, looking down their roster, they have a lot of young guns, which I've left off this list that I believe may debut throughout 2019, but they're not NRL tested yet and they do not have NRL experience. That's why I've ranked them a bit lower on this list. Now let's take a closer look at the men in their forward pack. So we've got Adam Fanua-Blake, Curtis Sironen, Frank Winterstein, Jack Galeski, Jake Travojevic, Joel Thompson, Kalepi Tanganoa, Lloyd Parrott, and of course, Martin Tapau. A very damaging and very effective starting forward pack. But if we're looking towards the bench in the later minutes, and especially in tight games where NRL experience is so vital, I believe that is an area where the Manly Seagulls will struggle, and that's why I've included them at number 13 on this list. Number 12, the Canberra Raiders. Now, this is a team you might have expected to see a little earlier on this list, but despite losing both their front rowers in Junior Paulo and Shannon Boyd from 2018, they have made the right signings to potentially replace these men at the right price. Looking at the English talent is what they've done, which is something Ricky Stewart has done before with Elliot Whitehead and Josh Hodgson, and both are very, very good players. Let's take a closer look at the Canberra Raiders pack now. So we've got Dynamis Louis, Elliot Whitehead, Emre Gula, John Bateman and Luke Bateman, Joe Tapane, Josh Papali, Ryan Sutton, and Sia Soliola. Not the greatest depth out of all NRL teams, but some of those names there alone are very well known and very effective forwards. The reason I've got them early on this list is because some of their English signings that they've signed to replace their departing front rowers are not tested in the NRL. And as we know, not all English prospects that come across to the NRL are very effective. There's more cases of them failing in our competition than them succeeding. Number 11 now, the Gold Coast Titans, my team, a team I would like to rank higher, and I do believe this is the strongest forward pack we've ever had on the Gold Coast. Now let's take a closer look at some of our forwards, led of course by our captain, Ryan James. We've got Bryce Cartwright, Jack Stockwell, Jai Arrow, Jared Wallace, Keegan Hipgrave, Kevin Proctor, Leilani Latu, Max King, Mo Fonueka, Morgan Boyle, Shannon Boyd, and Will Matthews. That is a very strong forward pack with the ability to dominate any opposition on their day. Consistency has always been our problem, but if we can put it all together in 2019, that forward pack will definitely get meters for us. And as I said, that forward pack has the potential to dominate any in the NRL, in my opinion. Still a question mark next to our consistency though, and that's why I have ranked us at number 11 on this list. Number 10, the Melbourne Storm. Now this is certainly not the most explosive or dynamic forward pack the Storm have ever had, but they is still definitely NRL caliber and still very strong in a very professional system, as we know. Let's take a closer look at the men. We've got Albert Verte, Christian Welch, Dale Finucane, Felice and Patrick Carfusi, Jesse and Kenny Bromwich, Joe Stimson, Nelson Arso for Solomona, and Sam Cassiano. Now, I am hoping we see a little bit more of Sam Cassiano throughout 2019. Although there is a rumour that he may be moved on by the Storm, I'm hoping that's not the case. I would like to see more of him since he's dropped all that weight. I believe he'll be very effective. Obviously, he did struggle for form a little bit in 2018, but he's too good to be out of the NRL permanently. Overall, this is a very strong forward pack. Not as much depth as they have previously had. They have obviously lost Glasby, who is a Queensland representative. But regardless, still a strong forward pack and still very solid. For that reason, I've put the Melbourne Storm at number 10 on this list. Number 9, the Brisbane Broncos. Now, this is a forward pack that definitely has the potential to rank a lot higher on this list. However, given a lot of their players are still young and are relatively new to the NRL without too much top grade experience, I've had to include them a little lower than perhaps they deserve. Let's take a closer look at some of the men in this pack. Alex Glenn, Sarvilio, David Fafita, Jaden Sewer, Joe Offahen-Gowie, Matt Gillette, Patrick Mago, and Payne Haas. Now, obviously, that's not the best forward pack the Broncos have had, and they have lost a couple key players. Of course, Matt Lodge is not included there because he is not re-signed yet, as well as Tevita Pangai Jr. If those men were to re-sign, that would greatly bolster their pack, and I would have included them higher on this list. But at the time of me recording, those two men have not re-signed officially, and that is why I have included the Brisbane Broncos at number 9 on this list. Now we head into our top 8, and we kick things off with the New Zealand Warriors at number 8. Now, this is a forward pack that on their day will dominate anyone, no doubt about it. However, there's always a huge question mark next to the New Zealand Warriors with consistency. Let's take a closer look at some of the men. So we've got Adam Blair, Ignatius Parsi, Isaiah Papalia, Bunty Arfoa, Leeson Armour, Leovahu Pulu, Ligi Sayo, Sam Lasoni, Tohu Harris, and Chris Sarte. Now, those are all huge names in the NRL. Those are all very effective, very powerful forwards. However, as I said before, you cannot put the New Zealand Warriors in a sentence without the word inconsistency. They have proven over the years that they're very up and down and struggle to find consistent forms. So for that reason, I've had to include them at number 8 on this list. Number 7 now, the Newcastle Knights, a team that has recruited perfectly for 2019, mixing the right blend of youth with NRL experience. Let's take a closer look at their pack and listen to some of the big names that I'm going to say. Aiden Guerra, Daniel and Jacob Saifidi, David Clemmer, Herman Sa, Jamie Bura, Josh King, Lachlan Fitzgibbon, Mitchell Barnett, Sione Mataudia, Tim Glasby, and James Gabay. Now, that is the right team to potentially finish top 4. I'm definitely predicting top 8. The only reason I've included them a little low on this list at number 7 is because a lot of those players haven't formed chemistry yet. We haven't seen them play together. And of course, it does take a couple games, and in some cases, more than a couple games to build successful connections within the NRL. So for that reason, I've put the Newcastle Knights at number 7 on this list. Number 6 is South Sydney Rabbitohs. Now, this is a pretty effective forward pack, if I'm being honest. They regularly dominated and beat their opposition in 2018. Obviously, Angus Crichton has left, and that will leave a bit of a hole for the Rabbitohs, and they are lacking in a bit of depth. I have included them very high on this list, however, because we saw what they're capable of in 2018. Let's take a closer look at some of the men. We've got Bailey Sirenen, Mark Nichols, Tom and George Burgess, as well as Sam Burgess, Dean Britt, Junior Totola, and of course John Sutton. Now, there seems to be a bit of depth issue there, and there's not as many names as there was last year. Obviously, Zane Musgrove has gone, Angus Crichton, and I think that will leave a bit of a hole for them. However, we saw what they're capable of in 2018. We can't write them off by name value, and for that reason, I've had to include the Rabbitohs at number 6 on this list. Number 5, the Cronulla Sharks. Now, this is a team that, of course, will be without Luke Lewis, who is a long-serving member of that club. However, I do predict the Sharks will continue to be dominant as they have in previous years, given they have replaced him with the right up-and-coming young talent. Let's take a closer look at some of their men. So we have Aaron Woods, Andrew Fafita, Ava Sia Mangafungai, that's such a hard name, Braden Ueli, Jason Bakuya, Kurt Capewell, Matt Pryor, Paul Gallen, Scott Sorensen, and Wade Graham. A very, very powerful forward pack. Wade Graham will be out for a little bit of 2019 as he continues to recover from his ACL injury. But look, this is a powerful forward pack and a very experienced forward pack. With the potential to, really wrestle around the ruck, use their smart, experienced footy heads, and beat and dominate any opposition forward pack. So for that reason, I've got the Cronulla Sharks at number 5 on this list. Number 4, the Sydney Roosters. This is a very, very powerful forward pack heading into 2019. Now let's take a closer look. We've got Angus Crichton, Boyd Cordner, Isaac Liu, Jared Warrior-Hargraves, Mitchell Orbison, Nat Butcher. We've got Shakai Mitchell, the older or younger brother of Latrell Mitchell. We've got Sia Takiaho, Victor Radley, and Zane Tetavano. Very excited to see Victor Radley and also Angus Crichton in the back row for the Sydney Roosters in 2019. Obviously, they have the Australian captain there in Boyd Cordner also. This is a very talented forward pack, and they definitely deserve to be within the top 4 of my list. Number 3, the St. George Illawarra Dragons. Now, this was a team in 2018, particularly towards the start of the year, where their forward pack looked invincible. Pretty much everyone was being lined up from that forward pack for representative honours throughout the year, and whilst they certainly did form slump a little bit towards the end of 2018 and battle some injuries, this is still a team that on their day are capable of being the best forward pack in the NRL. Let's take a look at some of the men. Blake Lowry, Jack DeBellin, James Graham, Jeremy Lattimore, Tariq and Corbin Sims, Luciano Leilua, Tyson Frizzell, and Paul Vaughan. Obviously, a lot of excitement there with Corbin Sims joining the team. He will fill the void left by Leeson Armour, who would usually come off the bench and help them keep the same intensity throughout the game. Tariq Sims obviously had a huge 2018, and I believe he'll build on that into 2019. And Blake Lowry, if you don't know who this kid is, I rate him hugely. He played the finals match with the St. George Illawarra Dragons one day. The very next day, he backed up for the Illawarra Cutters in their finals match. Super tough, old school, hard-nosed prop, and I'm very excited to see him perform in 2019. For those reasons, I've netted the St. George Illawarra Dragons at number 3 on this list. Number 2, the Penrith Panthers. Now, this is a powerhouse, stacked forward pack. Let's look at some of the men and some of the names. We've got Isaiah Yeo, Jack Hetherington, James Fisher-Harris, James Tarmow, Regan Campbell-Gillard, Moses Leota, Cade Ellis, Tim Grant, and of course, Viliami Kikau. This is a team that is very experienced, yet still close to their prime. Some of them are still growing and yet to reach their true potential, which is scary. Players like Viliami Kikau, for example. There's also a lot of great young players coming through the Panthers system that have the chance to debut in 2019. One of those is Cade Ellis. I'm not sure if he's made his NRL debut or not, but he was the captain of their reserve grade team last year that went deep into the final series. So overall, the Panthers have the correct depth and the correct firepower. For that reason, I've put them at number 2 on this list. Number 1, the North Queensland Cowboys. I cannot remember the last time I saw a forward pack this strong. Perhaps Bulldogs 2004, or maybe it was 2005. I was still quite young then. Perhaps that was the last time I saw a pack this dominant with this sort of potential. Factor in the amazing forward pack they had last year, and then add Australian representative player Josh McGuire to that mix. Just listen to some of these names, guys, and you'll see exactly why I've put them at number 1. Cohen Hess, Corey Jensen, Ethan Lowe, Gavin Cooper, Francis Molo, Jason Tamalalo, Josh McGuire, Jordan McLean, Scott Bolton, John Asiata, and Matthew Scott. That is a very experienced and very powerful forward pack, which will obviously be led by Jason Tamalalo, who in my opinion is the best forward in the NRL. Him alone racked up about 200 metres per game. Factor in Jordan McLean having a full season, Matt Scott now having a full season back under his belt since returning from injury. As I said, Australian representative Josh McGuire, Gavin Cooper, Ethan Lowe, Cohen Hess, dynamic back row. This, in my opinion, is the premier and the best forward pack in the NRL, and that is why I have them at number 1 on this list. Thank you very much if you've made it this far for watching The Ranking with Dane Clarke. I really hope you enjoyed this series and this episode in particular. This entire series was very challenging and very tough to make, especially by myself, going through gathering all the data and players and then putting them and ranking them against each other to try to give an accurate and fair 16-1, which I believe I did. However, there are a few people that have been commenting and disagreeing, but I personally enjoy that. I mean, it's constructive criticism. It's as long as it's constructive chat and we're talking about footy in the off season. Then again, rugby league's the real winner, and we're the real winner as fans. Again, guys, I'd like to just remind you this whole series was done literally with writing down the players and then the ladder on the other side. This was by no means professionally written out by a script or anything. This was all just me talking footy as I went along. I do hope you guys noticed the microphone quality was higher in this one. I have purchased a new $160 microphone. Before I was using this thing on my head, but that's no longer needed with this. So a lot of top quality videos are yet to come. I'm really enjoying branching out from Facebook and Instagram onto YouTube as well, and it's definitely something I want to continue to do. That being said, guys, if you did enjoy the video, leave a comment on some other suggestions on stuff you would like to see in the future, and I'll be sure to consider it and get working on some more great videos for the channel. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate all the support. Until next time, my name's Dane from Clarke's Column. Thank you for being here.
I'll take your eyes to see the moon. Take your body to the